There are two main types of prison systems in the U.S., public and private. They vary in how they're run and funded, the rehabilitation efforts they offer, the types of inmates they house, and the level of security each one requires. In this case, we will be talking about private prisons. A private prison's purpose is to run at a lower cost than public ones, cutting many other costs as well. With the rising number of people getting arrested and given longer sentences for drug crimes, the number of private prisons grows dramatically. The process of privatizing prisons can reduce prison overpopulation, making the facilities safer for inmates and employees. The movement to privatize prisons is reflective of a larger socioeconomic and political movement occurring worldwide. This movement is referred to as neoliberalism. Corporations involved in this movement embrace a capitalistic fever that seeks the abolishment of government intervention and the expansion of economic free enterprise. So then, what's wrong with private prisons exactly, and what are their downfalls? First of all, private prison owners have corrupt motivations. Another main flaw with private prisons is that the well-being of prisoners inside of these facilities may be compromised. Some of the problems that this entails is smaller cells, understaffing in private prisons, overcrowding in private prisons, and higher rates of assault. The reality of this industry is that private prisons don't make money unless they have people to lock behind bars because they decided to commit a crime. There is also an incentive to keep people in prison longer so that the company operating the facility can make more money. This disadvantage means that someone sentenced to a private facility might spend up to 10% more time in their cell compared to those serving in a similar sentence in a public facility. Private prisons are usually more costly because they take on all offenders, including those with severe security risks. A for-profit prison has the luxury of choosing which prisoners they believe will maximize their profits instead. If a low-risk offender becomes a high-risk inmate under the supervision of one of the companies in the industry, then contracts will allow them to replace one person for another. This is the primary reason why there are cost-saving opportunities in private prisons. There's also the fact that private prisons experience 50% more violence against employees from inmates when compared to the data from public institutions, even though they house less violent individuals for less severe crimes. The government is default accountability for a community when a facility fails to provide safe housing to the offender population. This means the agencies involved in this industry are not treated to the same standard. Since the right to inspect a business is different in some jurisdictions, there might not be a way to determine if people receive ethical treatment during their stay in the facility. This leads to the fact that private prisons may have higher corruption levels. Therefore, the main idea to conclude this hellhole of a movie. Privatization creates more safety risks and offers fewer services, which can be a dangerous combination for underpaid correctional officers to manage.
President Joe Biden agrees with the fact that private prisons do a poor job at keeping incarcerated individuals in their prisons equally, and plans to suspend the contract between private prisons and the federal government.
President Biden laid out several initiatives as part of his racial justice agenda today. One of his plans, phase out contracts with private prisons. That would include the privately owned prison in Baldwin, up in Lake County. Biden's plans are aimed at combating discriminatory housing practices and reforming the prison system. Advocates have said privately operated prisons have contributed to an increase in incarceration rates and have treated inmates poorly. The prison in Baldwin, which is owned by the GEO Group, signed a 10-year contract with the Federal Bureau of Prisons back in 2019. It houses non-U.S. citizens convicted of federal crimes. Today, Biden expressed the urgency to work with Congress to pass legislation that advances racial equity and roots out discrimination among undeserved communities.
We have never fully lived up to the founding principles of this nation, to state the obvious, that all people are created equal and have a right to be treated equally throughout their lives. And it's time to act now, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because if we do, we'll all be better off for it.
Thank you.